business, like many of us, I'm sure you're feeling it. Business is hard. And now more than ever, you need to have a plan to help your business not just survive, but thrive. And it can happen as simply as thinking with the end in mind. I'm Marcia. I'm a business growth strategist, and I've helped tons of small businesses to establish and implement a tangible plan that guarantees increased profitability, guides your growth, and plans for your future exit. Because a business worth selling is also a business worth owning. And I want to share those strategies that I've earned and learned with you on today's Profit with a Plan podcast. But before we get started, I have something to share with you. I've put together an insightful and think outside the box web class on Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And this is specifically designed to help you turn your business into one worth selling, even if you aren't thinking of selling it yet. Why now? Join me and find out all the benefits that come with a sale-ready business. Register for free at exitwithaplan.com. So I'm excited to have my guest with me today. You're going to love him, Cody Lowry. Cody is the division president of Intermark Group in Birmingham, and he's also the author of Schmooze, What They Should Teach You at Harvard Business School. He is skilled at advertising, public speaking, copywriting, social media marketing, and creative writing. He's known for being a strong sales professional and graduated from the University of South Florida. Cody's story is an upbeat and hilarious one, but it wasn't always that way. His past had known poverty, abandonment, and a family that moved 32 times in 7 years. But today, he's the Pied Piper of positivity with advice for everyone on how to make each day count. Cody has been a successful marketer for 30 years, building a multi-million-dollar ad agency from scratch. In spite of his past achievements or past experiences, he did achieve success. He took on life with a unique perspective, executing bold ideas and making others laugh and being mindful of the little guy. And now he's here to share with us some of those ideas to take and make a better life. So welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, Cody.
Well, hello. How are you today, Marcy?
I am doing fantastic. It's it's nice weather out here in sunny California, so we're just enjoying the this time of year, and I'm loving it. Where else can you pay the extra sunshine tax to have beautiful sunny days all the time?
Well, I hate to one up you, but I'm in beautiful Tampa Bay, and the weather's beautiful today. And we did win the Super Bowl last year. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, well, come on, you had to buy a quarterback, so I'm okay with that.
Oh, you're okay. Enough said.
We're fun, but I'm just so excited to have you on the show today. I mean, you have some really unique ideas that I think can truly help small business owners take their personal brand, their business brand, themselves to a whole different level with your ideas. So being the author of Schmooze, and I love the name, by the way, tell us a little bit more about why you came around to schmoozing.
Well, I've schmoozed my whole life, and starting selling papers at age 11. And actually, I've got a big speech coming on, and the topic is things I learned selling papers. And schmooze is the sizzle of the book. Is setting up a meeting with the President of the United States in 1 week, getting a baseball signed by the Pope, being the recipient of a Super Bowl ring from one of NFL's Hall of Fame players, carrying the torch in the Olympics. How does all of this happen? Well, I think it happens with schmooze. Now, Marcy, schmooze takes on a negative connotation, right? But I have redefined the word schmooze. And as my good friend Nito Quibane says, today we live in the most connected society in the history of the world, and yet we are more disconnected than ever before. And I learned that early on. So really, schmooze is about a winning smile, making a great first impression, and it's about in addition to all the business things, it's also about looking out for the little guy, which I'm very proud of, and I'm fortunate that I've been able to do that.
I love it. So having that kind of, first impression of having a winning smile and so on, but, that could be great, but that still doesn't get you in with the president or getting a baseball signed by the Pope. There's a little missing connection here from having a winning smile and getting that done. So connect the dots for us.
Yeah. So I think if you get an opportunity, or your viewers, listeners get an opportunity to read the book, they'll see that there's a couple common denominators throughout the whole book, and one of them is persistence. And I can tell you, you say no to me, and that doesn't mean anything. I learned at age 11 when I'd say, Miami News, would you buy a paper if I told you where you got your shoes, what state you were born in, how many birthdays you've had? And, when you're 11 years old, you can get away with stuff like that. And I'd say you got your shoes on your feet, you were born in the state of infancy, and you've only had one birthday the day you were born. And I was selling a rag newspaper. It was the Miami News. Our competitor was the Miami Herald and the Fort Lauderdale News. And we basically were a fish trapper. So I had to be persistent to sell newspapers. And I did learn that at age 11. And, the things that I've accomplished in my life and in business, it's about staying with it. One of my favorite quotes, Marcia, is it's a Japanese proverb: fall down 7 times, get up 8. And I've been doing that my whole life.
That's that's needed as a business owner. As I mentioned, business is hard. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it and being successful with it. So I love that persistence of getting up the 8th time. How do we, so when we're using this schmooze concept as a small business owner and trying to elevate who we are and make connections, as you said, what are some of the tips or ideas that you might share to enhance our, what would we call it? How would we verb schmooze? Would we call it a schmoozicize or schmoozidity? I can't even say it. How would we verb schmooze?
Well, I've been lucky. I was born with a lampshade on my head, and I know everyone wasn't born that way. But with that said, it's all about relationships and building relationships. And Marcy, we have clients on the books that have been with us for over 30 years. And one of the things I talk about in the book is the secret sauce. It's about building a relationship, getting the client to trust you. It's the foundation of any relationship, is trust, and never let the client down. And I know at times there's in my business career, and the people that are listening today, there's situations where you have let them down, but it's not because of how you approached it. It's really the client. But I can tell you, I still get calls on the weekend from clients, and I look down at that phone, Marcy, and I've got a decision to make. Do I pick it up and talk to that person, or do I kind of, hey, I'm busy right now, I'll call you back? I always pick it up, and they're paying me a lot of money, number one, but number two, the reason they call is they've got an issue, and I'm a blankie for a lot of people.
You're a blankie. I love that. A warm, fuzzy blankie that comes in and in goes the thumb, right? With my grandson, I'm thinking that idea with it. But, that's interesting. I look back when, some of the examples you shared, I look back at my dad, who was a car salesman. He was fantastic. He couldn't run a business because, here or there, but he was a fantastic relationship builder and knew how to schmooze and all the glory that he could. And he would build relationships and glad hand and talk to people and go to the end of the world for them to get them the things that they wanted and needed. And I look at that and I think he was the best salesman ever, because he listened and did and went to the end of the world on that relationship. But is that what's needed in a highly commoditized world where people are shopping online?
Well, let me tell you why, just back up just a little bit, why your dad was so successful. He understood intuitively, perhaps, that, relationships aren't made in, a year, 2 years. In the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds, people are already making a value judgment, okay, about you, whether or not they want to do business with you. And I can tell you that, one of the biggest moments in my business life was picking up a big account with a national agency that, dwarfed my shop that I had. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar agency. And it was through relationships, number one, that I was invited to a meeting that they miscommunicated to me with. But number two, they asked me to come up and have dinner. And coincidentally, it was automobile dealers, and they had a big association in North Carolina. And I was invited to come up and have dinner. So I came up, and And I can tell you, there's things that I did in that room with those 10 dealers. I mean, I got to know all of them, and you know, was building relationships with them, thinking that down the road I might have an opportunity to do business with them. Well, we're at dinner, and one of the dealers said, "Well, who did you bring?" And I thought that was an odd question. Who did I bring? What they didn't
like
tell me
behind
when
me?
they, yeah, well, what they didn't tell me was that it was a presentation for a multi-million-dollar account. I was by
Ooh,
myself. There were four other agencies that were there with their media buyers, their creative, the storyboards, the parting gifts for the dealers, and what have you. And here I had nothing but Cody Lowry. I had a new video, what we call the hot reel in my baggage, and I actually thought that night I went up to my room and I thought, I got to get out of this thing. There's no way I'm going to be able to compete. Well, let me tell you what happened. It was all about building those relationships quickly. I decided to go for it. So what the heck, I'm here. And that morning I got up and I met the other agencies, and they all have 3 or 4 people with them. They're going, who is this guy? He
yep.
doesn't have a chance, right?
The little guy,
So
right?
yeah, well, yeah. And so, and in my business, if you're making a presentation like that, you either want to go first or you want to go last. And fortunately, they let me go last. So when I walked into the room, and your father, maybe he told you, these dealers, they make decisions quickly. It's not like they're going to sit on it for, a month and then let you know. They make decisions right then and there. I walked into that room and it was like, Cody, hey, how you doing? I enjoyed that last night. That was fun. And, hey, don't forget to call me now, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing I know, I'm up in front of the room with this group of gentlemen. And when I finish, they applaud. And I walk out and we go into this was at the Grove Park Inn, for any of your people out there that know, that's very big and famous hotel. So everybody walks out into the lobby, and I'm there talking to them. And, I guess about 45 minutes later, a gentleman comes out, one of the dealers who was the president, and he said, Cody, we'd like to see you. And I walk into the room and they close the door and they all stand up and applaud. I got the business. And
Wow.
that really, that changed my business really forever, because we got into what they call the tier 2 world in a very big way. And it was about building that relationship and understanding how important it is to do it early, and have respect for the person that you're meeting. When I go in to meet somebody for the first time, and generally I meet people at a very high level, I know what school they went to, I know what charities they have, I know about their kids, I know a lot about them. And
You
I
do your
always
research.
oh yeah, and they appreciate it. If you ask a client, and this is something I've been doing for years, and it doesn't matter what business they're in. So, Mr. Johnson, how did you get started in this business? Oh my God, sit back, pack a lunch, and they're going to let you know. But what you're doing there is you're creating a bond, and you're getting on with some of the things that they say, well, I'm originally from Detroit. Well, I'm from Detroit originally, and blah, blah, blah. And you start having a conversation, and they start looking at you as a real person, and not some, sales guy wanting to, walk out of the office with a check. So it's very, very important in business, especially small business, to make sure that you establish that relationship early, and go for it.
I love it. I love the fact that you stood up next to those big agencies, threw your shoulders back, and presented anyways, knowing that, hey, I'm already here. I might as well do it. To have that and to land the deal because they saw that sincerity in the relationship that you built. It's funny. I have a friend that tells this story, this amazing story of being, held over in an airport talking to some gentlemen, and she asked a couple of questions, and these gentlemen just were talking for the whole time. And then she leaves for the plane, and someone runs over and goes, you're the best, person I've ever met. And can I get your card? And so she gives him the card, walks off to the plane, and thinking to herself, she didn't even hardly say a word or introduce herself, but these people thought she was the best person in the world because she listened.
Yeah,
And she let
yeah,
them talk. And I think that's the story of you just saying, hey, so how did you get into the business? And sit back and relax, because people love to share about themselves, especially to those that are genuinely interested in hearing the answer. And I
Yeah.
think when you can portray that, that deepens that relationship, as you said. What an amazing story. I mean, to be able to land that. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so you, a lot of us business owners maybe aren't extroverts, right? You and I, we're kind of, I mean, I don't put a lampshade on, but I can walk into the room, any room, and be okay with that. But there are a lot of business owners that aren't quite that way. How do you tell them to build that schmooze ability and be able to do the things that they need to do?
Yeah, well, I don't think any of us were born a schmoozer. In fact, one of the chapters in my book is schmoozing from the podium. And it's something that is learned. And
Mm,
I know it's difficult for some people to go into a group of people and, initiate a conversation or be part, a relevant part of that conversation. But it takes practice, and it's not something that comes easy. I will tell you this, that it did come relatively easy for me because of my background in comedy, and and all the things that go along with that. And so I would say to your listeners out there that they just have to work at it, and sooner rather than later, they're going to feel very, very comfortable doing it. But they can't just sit down and be in a corner and say, oh well, gee, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to approach him, or I don't want to approach her, and what if they think this and what if they think that. You go for it.
no, I agree. I think it's important. Something else that you said I think would help, is that doing your research before you go into that room, I think gives you some skills. And that research is not just about the people that you want to meet in that room, which if you have an opportunity to have a list of the attendees that are going, you could do the research on the folks that you want. But another person had told me that if you're just aware of um, good conversation starters, and it's not necessarily politics or what's going on with weather, or God forbid if I hear another story about COVID, I don't know. But if they have some good conversation starters, or are cued into a few things that maybe be able to continue the conversation, I think that helps a lot too. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that it has to be, relevant. You got to understand where you're coming from, and you can't just, you know, s- spit out something that goes, what? So I think it's important to be a participating part of that group, but know from where you're speaking, and what you want to say, and make sure that that it's relevant.
Hmm, love it. And important. And I think in any conversation that we're having, and when we're talking to potential clients, turning that relevancy of how our solution, our product, or our service can be relevant to that company and add those benefits to them in a way that is not, forgive the term, used car salesman of, hey, if you don't take this price today, kind of
Right.
thing. um, so tell us some more about some of your schmoozing skills that small business owners can use in everyday practices that would help them become more popular, maybe more welcomed to those circles.
Right. One of the things that I think your listeners need to do is understand that your business has a brand, and obviously you've got to pay attention to the brand, but you also have a brand. Who are
Mhm.
you? What are you all about? When if 100 people were asked that know you, hey, what does she stand for? What does he stand for? What flags do they wave? What would they say? And I always paid close attention to my own personal brand. I know if they wanted, creative, I was their guy. If they wanted to consult on something without being sold something, they felt free to call me. I built up a good relationship with, business referrals, and what, hey, you got to talk to Cody. Cody will fix this one for you. And so I think it's about knowing who you are and what you stand for. Today, we don't compete necessarily with our immediate competition. We compete with Ritz-Carlton. We compete with the Four Seasons. We compete with Disney World, Nordstrom's. People expect great, incredible service. And you know what? If you don't get it, they're going to be someplace else. And the very fact that we've had clients as long as we've had, I owe it to understanding that I've got to continually give them the Ritz-Carlton service, or somebody else is waiting in line right behind me.
And when you discuss those iconic brands such as Ritz-Carlton and Disney and Nordstrom's and so on,
Chick-fil-A, I forgot to mention them.
Chick-fil-A is fantastic. We love Chick-fil-A here in California. So just wish they were open on Sundays. Having that kind of service, if you're competing on service alone, I think that you can be knocked off the shelf. But I think if we're competing on what the consumer really truly wants, and then providing that at a level of just outstanding service and outstanding solution, I think that that's a little bit more. But how do you attach your brand to that? So here I am, Marcia Reiner. I'm known for being a connector. I'm known for being an influencer and doing the things that I do. But I also am known for thinking outside the box and saying, okay, there's ways that I can do this that you may not have thought about, and let's figure out how to solve the puzzle. But is that a brand? Is that what people want to know me for? Is that something that we can elevate? Because of course I'm going to go to the end of the world and I'll be there on the phone when they need that. But do you see where I'm coming from? Is that part of that?
I think those credentials are established early on. They know who you are. They know what you're capable of doing. You have done your homework. You've got the business. But let me tell you something. And I don't think there's anything more important than really paying attention to your clients. And I think that my experience and the tenure that I've had with clients, it's almost unheard of. And it is about service, because you got the business because of all the things that you mentioned, but now it's time to keep it. And there is somebody banging on their door all the time with a better mousetrap, and why them, why not me? So it's a combination of things.
I love it. So keeping that business, and if we continue with the schmooze concept, if we are taking care of them on that customer service level and we're schmoozing with them continuously, not just when we meet them, we're keeping that honeymoon phase, I guess, is what I'm kind of envisioning throughout the relationship, right? Rather than, after you've been married a few years, you're like, yeah, here's your dinner, or here, you look good today, not that kind of stuff. But I think that's a great carry through, that you want to continue to keep that type of relationship going, correct?
Absolutely. And again, that's something I've done my whole life, and it works. And I want to just clarify something. Schmoozing, and if you read the book, you'll find out I redefine the word schmoozing. And first and foremost, it's about being genuine, and people will see through some sort of a schmooze person who's they really don't have anything to offer except a cheap suit. And when I say I was there for my clients, I mean, I'm invited to weddings. I've done many eulogies. I've done all kinds of things that aren't terribly typical in at least in my world. And it's because I built such a strong relationship and was there for them.
I love it.
I can tell you, I carried the torch in the Olympics because I had a big executive from Detroit. I won't mention his name. He's also CEO of a large multi-billion-dollar international agency. But he was having some problems with his son, who was in Florida. And we had established a relationship years prior, but he called me and said that his son was really trying to find a job and would I be able to help him? And I said, sure. So it was kind of like Tuesdays with Maury, it was Tuesdays with his son, and he'd come by and we'd talk. And I obviously would help him network. And he calls me up one day, Marcia, and he says, Cody, can I come in to see you? So he came to my office, and he said, I got a job, I got a position. And I said,
Yay.
what are you? Yeah, but you know what? I said, really, what is it? He said, well, I'm going to be a junior account executive for this big agency. And I just stopped dead in my, that's not what he wanted to do. And I said, your dad probably got you this position, and he can get you that position tomorrow, the next 2 weeks, somebody in his position. And I said, don't take it. And he said, you're kidding. I said, no, it's not what you want to do. And I mean, you're a young kid. Yeah, you're flipping burgers now at Fridays, but things will change. A week later, he calls me up. He got the job he was looking for down in South Florida. Guess what? I became part of that family. I was invited to all kinds of things. And when his father had an opportunity to nominate somebody to carry the torch in the Olympics, he picked up the phone and he asked me. So, it's not schmoozing. I just don't want people to get the wrong connotation, if you will.
No, and I think it's a great connotation though, because there's an art to it, and the way that you've transformed that into building relationships, I think is so much better than just going out and glad handing and baby kissing and work in the room kind of thing. It's coming in with an intention, is what I'm hearing. It's coming in with an intention of building a relationship, doing your homework, being authentic and respectful of who you are and who that party is, and then deepening the relationship. Do I have that? Do I have your version of schmooze down?
I'll hire you now.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Because I think these are all benefits that the business owner needs to do to build relationships, because business is often done, as they always say, on the golf course, right? It's the big accounts are done because you've made friends and you've made relationships and you've done something and you've been part of. And it's not just because you have an online ad or you're the dentist on the corner that people are going to come to you. The deeper, better relationships are for those that actually you care about and care about you. And that can only be done by building that relationship.
And they trust you. And
so much.
that's, yeah. And again, it goes back to being it goes back to being genuine. Yeah, I built a lot of relationships on the golf course. I talk in the book, there's a chapter, Schmoozing on the Links. I actually teed it up at Augusta National. This is a kid who should have fallen through the cracks. And I'm teeing it up at Augusta National with one of the head guys at CBS, and I did it by schmoozing. And it's a great story if you'd like me to share with you. Please. I was a guest with CBS at Augusta, and they had us set up at a house in Augusta, and that's what CBS does. They go in and they rent all these houses out, and people make $1 gazillion renting their house, right? Right. So so there was an opportunity to go to a dinner the first night I got there, and they had a car pick us up, and I walked in and I looked at the parking lot. It was relatively empty. The reason it was relatively empty is because it was an intimate group. Jim Nance was there, Ken Venturi was there, all of the CBS color people were there, people that own 4 or 5 CBS affiliates were there, and Green Jacket members were there. Yeah, and here I'm in the room, and what am I doing here? Well, the funny story is the next day they had a car that picked us up, me and another gentleman, and they were taking us out to play golf at some fancy club, and not Augusta National, but as they were, this is before the advent of the GPS, and they were driving us out, and I said to my buddy, I said, I think we're going to be late. And this guy got lost, and we're 30 minutes late getting to the golf course, 30 minutes past our tee time, right?
Oh my goodness.
Well, listen to this. We get there and the world has stopped. There's 2 guys on the tee box, and it's one of those deals. We get out of the car, they're sitting on number 1 hole, and we get out of the car and we're putting on our shoes and everything. And I walk up and I introduced myself. The one guy was a little guy, and the other guy was a big guy. But anyway, the little guy, he's a little anxious to get the round going, so he starts, and he's a left-handed guy, and he starts making these crazy turns with his club and everything. And now he's getting ready to hit the ball, and he's got it right up here. And I said, Les, I screamed at him, and he's shaking, and he turns around and he looks at me, and I do the oldest joke in the world. I said, Les, you're standing on the wrong side of the ball.
Oh
Now
my
he
gosh.
thought that was the funniest thing he ever heard. I get in the cart with the other guy, and he goes, most people don't screw with him. I said, who, Les? Well, Les was at the time was the highest paid executive with CBS. He was making $5 million a year, in charge of all the talent. That day we had more fun and, messing with each other. We go into the clubhouse, we're having a drink, and he casually just looks over. He says, are you playing Monday? At the time, the sponsors all played Monday, the Monday after the tournament, because they had a regular sudden death. And I said, no, I didn't. And he changed the subject, and I got home that night, and on my bed upstairs, and I'll never forget this, Marcia, I looked down, and there's this handwritten envelope with my name on it. Very well done. And I open it up. It says, you've been invited to play Augusta National. You'll tee off at 9:15 and blah, blah, blah. So here I am. I get an invitation to play Augusta National, the envy of all of my golf buddies. And I get to the place, and Les looks over at me, and he waves, and it was just an experience that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't initiated this relationship early, and I did it by having a little fun at his expense.
And you know what? Most people, like the tall guy, says, oh my God, nobody would normally mess with this guy because this guy's an icon in the world that he's in. But you took it upon yourself to reach out and do something that nobody else did. And I think that that's what we all need to do, to separate ourselves from the pack. Maybe not, poke fun at a wealthy guy on the other side, but to be ourselves and to be unusual and to step outside of that box and do the things that are needed to be recognized.
May I say this to you? And it's in the book. I've got billionaires that are friends, right? And I have no problem. I can't keep up with them financially, and I don't have the jets and the homes abroad.
But it's nice to have rich friends, right?
Yeah, well, but in the book, I tell the readers, I don't care who stoops from what pedestal. We are 99.9% more alike than we are different. And it doesn't matter how many zeros somebody has after their name. Right. So I have always had a comfort level, whether they're a street person, which I spend a lot of time, schmoozing street people, and or a billionaire. And again, I mean, we're more alike than we are different. So I think that helps, and understand it. A lot of times you'll get a big meeting and you're real nervous because this person is whatever he is or she is, and you know what, they'd love to just sit and talk about their kids or the things that are happening in their life, and no reason to be intimidated. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
They're people just like you. They put on their pants one leg at a time and tie their shoes. So love it.
Yeah.
All right, Cody, this has been a fantastic conversation, and beautiful stories that you've told us along the way of ways that we should be living our life and being active and participating in a way that just really takes you to a whole different place. And I really like it. Where can listeners find out more about you and your book?
Yeah, they can go to mrschmooze.com, and that's MR, not MISTER, mrschmooze.com. And my speaking, part of my speaking portfolio is there as well. And then, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, wherever books are sold, you can pick it up.
Awesome. I love it. It is so much about the way it used to be and that it's going away from. And I love that we're pulling this skill set and this connection back into our world in a time where, we're all on Zoom all the time, and we're missing that connection in the way that we can build relationships with people. So I'm so happy to have had you on the show. Thank you so
Well,
much.
I am delighted, and thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, listeners, I hope you found an idea or two to put into your business that will help you become more profitable. And I know this idea of Cody's version of schmoozing is a fantastic way for us to get back out to start building those and deepening those relationships again. So now more than ever, it's important to build your business like you want to sell it. Don't forget to register for my new web class, How to Turn Your Business into One Worth Selling, even if you aren't thinking of selling it yet. There are tons of benefits to having a sale-worthy business. And it'll be on Wednesday at 6 p.m. So go register for free at exitwithaplan.com. You don't want to miss this class. And as always, Cody and I would love to hear your questions or feedback, or gosh, if you have any amazing schmooze stories, we'd love to hear them. Please comment on today's show and don't forget to subscribe. And as always, you can catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, where we're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, Cody.
Thank you.